We are live again, a student success interview. This is, 476 of the success, but the second live one. So Tim was an awesome interview. For everybody out there who's checking in, we got Jenny Walker. I can never figure out which way to go. Hey, Jenny, what's going on?
Hi, Scott.
Hey. So let's just jump right into it. You're a PMP student. You just passed the PMP. How do you feel right now?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I feel incredibly proud and accomplished. Getting the PMP is such a meaningful milestone, and I'm so grateful to have achieved it.
That is awesome. We're pumped to have it. And everybody else, if you're out there, check in. Post your comments in the thing. So post your comments or questions, not your comments, questions below. And then I'll ask her. So let's just jump into it. Everybody's got a different story. You got a kind of a unique story, right? You came from a non-traditional PMP background, and you did amazingly. So why don't you walk us through the shorter version? How'd you get here?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I'll do my best to keep it brief.
Right.
Yeah, so maybe like a lot of folks who might be watching this, I had the PMP on my radar for the last couple of years.
Okay.
And I initially maybe mistakenly assumed that the PMP was for folks who, are in systems engineering jobs or manufacturing and construction jobs. But I quickly learned that that's not the case, and that someone like me who has a nonprofit background can benefit from having it. So fast forward to 2020, the pandemic completely flips the script for how businesses operate across sectors. Companies, I think, are pressured to remain competitive and relevant, to employ this sort of innovative startup mindset. And so it seems that more and more companies are utilizing projects to experiment, to improve on business and operations, to deliver value to their customers at a faster pace. So if ever there was a time to get the PMP, I felt like that time was now. So
what was the journey like? Did you just one day show up and you're like, dude, I'm the smartest person in the world and I got the PMP overnight? Or how did it go for you?
Gosh, definitely not. So in the fall, I finally committed that I was going to do this, that I was going to make the journey. I bought the PMBOK, which is like a 1,000-page book, right? And the Agile Practice Guide. Tried to read through those books, which wasn't very fun. And honestly, I didn't get very far. And then understanding that the exam format was changing in 2021, I enrolled in this program. It was a self-study program that was supposed to be based on the new exam. And honestly, it was terrible. I didn't enjoy it at all. And I won't bore folks with why I thought it was awful.
Oh, give me the details. Come on. Bore me to death with how bad they were. Tell me about it.
Well, I'll say, it went right into ITOs, into the inputs, tools and techniques and outputs, without really giving you a context for what that, knowledge area process group matrix is, what it's all about. And there was it produced a ton of academic articles, which, I'm sure I'll reference at some point in my career, but in terms of actually prepping for the exam, it wasn't helpful at all.
Do you feel like you understood things or no?
Maybe there were facets of things that I understood. And then some things I just knew way too many details about. So in terms of knowing what to focus on and how to have an approach for the exam, that's where this program failed, in my opinion. So anyway,
and you're talking about another person, no big deal.
Another program. Yeah. So I finally found you and PM Master Prep in the spring.
Cool.
And at that point, I was feeling really lost, really frustrated. Especially when you spend time and money on something that doesn't feel useful. It stinks. Yeah. So our preliminary phone call, Scott, you were actually really helpful. I certainly put you on the spot. I was needing you to convince me that this program was going to get me over the exam finish line. And you did convince me.
How? I kind of remember, but I talk to a lot of people. What did I say? Hold on. Why did you need me to convince you that you could What I needed to convince you that you could do this, or what?
Well, to make another commitment to something that
Okay.
was going to, be lots of hours of time and more money. You need to be sold on something before
Okay.
you invest that.
I understand. All right.
Again,
So
that
what did I
time and
tell
money.
you? I don't remember. What did I tell you?
Yeah, I mean, you were just great about understanding my situation, um, understanding, my preferences for learning, and then, kind of building the conversation from there. And then actually, I got to sit in on a hard questions made easy, and I was completely blown away by the other students in the classroom. And I thought, okay, this feels really right. I need this network. I need the interactions. I need the accountability calls. So really from day one of the accelerator, I felt like that I was in really good hands, and I was really happy I made this decision.
That's cool. And you mentioned a little bit like your learning style. Some people out there be like, well, maybe I don't match Jenny. Like, what is your learning style, Jenny?
Yeah, so my learning style, I need structure. I need accountability. I need someone who, is saying, "Okay, Jenny, you've committed to doing an hour a day at least.
Yeah.
How are you doing? Where are you in the program? I think this might be a weak spot in your learning, so maybe spend a little more time here." That was really great. I think having a community to lean on is also really crucial to learning effectively, and just having different uh, modalities, right? Like having the videos, having the conversations, having the PDF materials, the flashcards that you can look at when you're killing time somewhere.
Yeah.
There were so many different things to draw from that it was awesome.
All right, cool. And so like I want to understand a little bit kind of how you made the mental jump, because there's probably people out there listening. They're like, oh man, like I felt like that. I was struggling, or I am struggling, all that stuff. Like when you came in day one, was it overwhelming? Did you like see that like, okay, I can simplify things down? Like how much time did it take to like transition your mind to like, I can do this, instead of like a discouraged type feeling?
Yeah, so obviously the 7-day accelerator is a program that you could do in a week,
Right.
and most likely pass the exam, and end of story. You've done you.
Ain't no most likely, Jenny. Come on. We're gonna but keep going.
But
Yeah. We can go 7 or longer days, but keep going. I apologize.
yeah, but I'm certainly somebody who, just like everybody else, I have a busy
Mhm.
life, a busy professional life, personal life. I really wanted to take the time with the material,
Mhm.
not rush myself through it. Um, so I gave myself a good 6 weeks with the
Okay,
program.
that's cool.
Yeah, and I'd say what the turning point for me when I saw a boost in my confidence, it was finally getting to a place where I could go through the simulator
Mhm.
exams. And once I started to see my score improve, I thought, oh, okay, I think this is landing. I think I'm getting it.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
I just kind of set the date for the exam and committed to it and did it, and it's worked out.
That's awesome. And we got some questions. I want to engage Melanie from the field. She said right off the bat, like, let's see, what areas of the accelerator helped you the most? So, like, you mentioned a
Yeah.
couple things. If you had to like cut the rest of it, which the system works for the reason it works, but what areas really resonated with you? She asked.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So I really gravitated towards the hard questions made easy. I think
Oh.
that being in a group setting and having all of these minds together in one room, looking at the question, evaluating it, hearing how people are using logic to work their way through it helps
Mhm.
inform you. And then on the flip side, I think the sort of performance anxiety that comes up when it's your turn and and
Yeah.
you have to read through the question and justify why you like an answer or why you don't like an answer. I think it's a good simulation of the kind of anxiety you feel taking the exam, so I was actually really grateful for that. And
Hmm.
then the videos, of course. So
Okay.
um, your energy is just so positive and upbeat, and it makes going through the course really fun and interesting. And actually my favorite courses were, what I found to be most helpful was the waterfall deep dive where you highlight the key outputs to remember from each process. That was insanely helpful. Agile made easy. Coming into this knowing very little about Agile, that really simplified it and made sense to me. And then
That's
the
awesome.
7 key flows, you know, this matrix of knowledge areas and process groups and 49 processes. When you first look at it, you think, okay, you read it from left to right, top to bottom, right? But it's so much more dynamic than that. And that's the thing that I didn't understand until, you know, going through your class, that it's, you know, these processes are so iterative. They feed into each other. They inform one another. They're all related. So that was great. And then last but not least, I'll say that the how to build emotional resilience, which is a bonus feature of day 1. You don't have to go through it. It was great because I will say that the exam feels like a 4-hour marathon, you know, and having the advice from that video series helped me to fight that urge to like psych myself out during the exam. It really got me through.
This isn't your first time, like metaphoric or not metaphorically, on stage, right? You have like a performance background, but you still, so like up there, you're literally on stage, like in front of people. You were nervous. Did you get nervous then? And how nervous were you on the exam or preparing for the exam to be on the PMP stage?
Yeah. So my background, this is going back more than 10 years, but I was a professional modern dancer. So I was explaining to Scott that that sort of performance anxiety you feel before going out on stage is similar to that anxiety you feel, you know, working on hard questions made easy in front of a group of people, and then going through the exam. I'm somebody who likes to hyper prepare for everything. I like to hyper prepare for, you know, presenting in public, and obviously prepping for this exam. So it was really important to feel like I had the right coaches and the right program to get me to that point.
That's awesome. We got Melanie, you got some good questions in there. I'll get to them. Like, this is the thing, like a lot of people, when they say like they hyper prepare and stuff, they're like a person wrote me today and said, I'm going to memorize everything that you got. And I'm like, I got a lot of stuff and don't. Like, did you memorize anything?
Happily, you don't need to memorize much of anything for the exam. I think to your point, and you say this a bunch of different times, you really just need to understand the content. And then once you get the content, the rest kind of falls into place because it's a very logical process. The things that I did memorize, just because I'm me, I really wanted to know the earned value management formulas. I thought it was fun to know the point of total assumption that's associated with procurement contracts. You know, the different types of contracts.
Okay, all right, something's wrong with you, but that's cool.
but you don't. It's not a requisite. No.
Yeah. So no memorization, and then from the world, they said, how did you know that you were ready to take the exam? That's like an interesting one. Like, I knew when you were ready. How did you know that you were ready?
Yes, it was definitely going through the practice simulators, going through that experience of question fatigue, and then seeing my scores progressively get better over time. Yeah, I think that was the point at which I was starting to feel much more confident with the material. And actually with the simulators, I think it's really good to go through the questions you got both right and wrong, because a lot of times there's shared context that just gives you a deeper understanding. You encounter more terms and things that you might not have known before.
Yeah, that is a really good point for people out there. Like, don't run past all the answers. Oh, I got it right. Great. There's nothing to learn from here. Oh, I got it wrong. I don't want to face the facts or whatever. Like, if you can sit on both the wins and the losses, quote unquote, and learn, like, not only that there's 4 answer choices, can you distill them all down? You can get something out. And that was blatantly apparent, your desire to do that during the coaching call times, because you were like always, you know, I can see all the faces and you're always intent and like looking and questioning and stuff. So that's when I knew that you were ready to go. It's because like the way you were responding and the way you were like open to like, let me see what I have in here and know what I can do. So that's awesome. Let me ask you a question. Like, biggest mistakes that a student could make. Like, there's a lot of people out there making a lot of mistakes. What are the biggest ones you think that they
Yeah,
shouldn't?
I mean, I can only speak from my own experience.
Sure.
I think that initially when I would read through those scenario questions, it was easy to take myself out of it, to imagine that I was reading about somebody else.
Yes.
This hypothetical scenario where there's some issue that arises, there's some sort of conflict that you have to navigate. And then as I got more comfortable, I realized, wait, I have experience to draw from. I'm not coming to this, out of the dark. I need to imagine what I would do if I were living this. And usually then I was like, oh yeah, the right questions are probably between these two, and I can probably get rid of these other two. So that's my advice. That worked for me.
So like, put yourself as the heroine in the story, right? Like,
Sure.
the person there. Like,
Right.
I
Insert
think that's,
yourself, bring your own
what did it do to
experience.
your brain when you started saying like, no, this isn't like somebody else. This is Jenny. Like, what did it do?
Yeah. So I think those questions where it's really trying to draw out of you that the best response is a collaborative approach with your team. That servant leadership, that leadership in service to your team, that's usually a more ideal place to operate from. And then trusting your team that you're not, if you are leading a project, you are not the be all end all of where things stop and start, right? You've got a team of experts that you need to let shine, right? That you need to remove obstacles out of their way so that they can do their best work. So
I love it.
yeah.
I think, yeah, it's true servant leadership. We got a question from out there. He says, how many questions were agile, predictive, hybrid, like rough? I mean, you can only speak from your exam, but what'd you see rough?
Yeah. So, I knew going in that half would be waterfall predictive, half would be agile. What surprised me was how much the hybrid questions sort of threw me for a loop. So, imagine that you're getting terminology from both a predictive life cycle and an agile life cycle, and then somehow you're supposed to make sense of what to do next.
Yeah.
So surprisingly, those were the harder questions for me.
Yeah. That's cool. And then like, so that's cool. That's good. So it's like a mix in there, 30, 30, 30, maybe 33, whatever. But like a lot of times we see those ones that are like, oh, these are the toughest, as like jumping out, like reflecting, what helped you? I know they were not easy, and that's okay. What helped you get through the hybrid one? Was it understanding like a really good foundation of waterfall and agile and being able to like mix and match, or what helped you kind of navigate those?
Yeah, that's a great question. I really just went back to the approach which you outlined so well. So there's that great visual you give right at the beginning of the accelerator, which is, imagine you're parachuting out of an airplane and somehow you're landing within this project. You have to know where you are, whether you're in planning or execution, and then what kind of life cycle you're in. So again, trying to make sense of what the next sort of step would be. But that, when I would get kind of lost in the question, they are challenging. They're meant to confuse you, obviously. And you're encountering, different industry terms that you may or may not be familiar with. So you kind of have to just lock back in and trust in the approach. And so that's how I would orient myself in the question to know how to answer.
All right. I think that's awesome. And keep throwing your questions in there. Just to build off that, how did you manage your emotions during the exam?
Yeah, it's a good question. I was saying that the How to Build Emotional Resilience series with Emily was really helpful, because I definitely had like that accelerated heart rate taking the exam. I hate being timed. I hate taking tests. So immediately those are triggers. And then, I was explaining earlier that a couple of times for whatever reason, I was like, oh, you're not going to be able to pass this test. You're never going to do it. This is way too hard. And I had to be like, no, you got this. Like, take a deep breath. you have an approach, you know what you're doing, you're gonna do fine, So I was having these like different voices in my head, but I think being able to just feel present in your body, take a deep breath, try to keep yourself calm and focused. Focused is key. Is going to help you. Again, I like to use the metaphor that it's a 4-hour sort of marathon, and that it's like your exam finish line, right? Like you're working for this big event.
Okay. I love it. And I mean, I think sharing and being relatively vulnerable and saying like, I did do well in the exam coming from you, like, but you did have those doubts in your brain. You did have those things where you needed to control your, beating heart and breathing and stuff. It's like, I think it's relatable to other people to be like, yo, you don't have to be perfect. And that's like the game. You just have to be good enough. Like,
yeah, absolutely. And take those breaks. You get 2 10-minute breaks. I think it's helpful just to like stand up, stretch out, just like loosen your neck a little bit. Just kind of pull yourself away so you can come back with that same intense focus.
That's awesome. Like, do you think you're a better, like going through the accelerator, talking through with the coaches and me and all that stuff and thinking on your own, are you a better project manager?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think moving forward, just going through the stages with more intention is a big takeaway. Knowing that there are tools to lean on, that there are really important things to consider, like how you engage with your stakeholders. Communication is a key priority in doing a job well done, so that everybody feels like they're part of the process and everybody gets to weigh in. And then certainly, how you evaluate risk, how you really think about quality from beginning to end. Those are things that I can take with me in my nonprofit work.
That's awesome. And so we're going to get your questions later in a second. Let's go back to your nonprofit work. Like, now that you go there, is the PMP, do you find it relevant to your non-traditional, or I should say, it's non-traditional work or your nonprofit work? Do you see it relevant in this now that you look back?
Yes. I think the PMP to me is this international standard for how you manage and lead projects across industries, across sectors. I think it gives you, or demonstrates, when you have it, it demonstrates that you know how to drive projects beyond just managing budget, scope, and schedule requirements. It's so much more than that. That you understand business strategy, you know how to execute it, and ultimately deliver value to your organization. That's the most important thing. So it really doesn't matter what industry you're in. It's comparable to a lot of different fields.
That's awesome. I love it. Now, what's next for you, my friend? Like,
gosh, I don't know. I'm looking forward to jumping in on the final coaching call with my cohort of peers and sharing some insights, and and then kind of moving on my merry way in the professional world.
That's cool, because we did have a question. A guy, girl, I apologize, already passed the PMP months back. Thanks to us. Cool. Appreciate it. You're the best. Sweet. My question here is the best advice for the next step. So I can answer. It's all personal, but you want to give them some drugstore advice, like right off the cuff? Like, what advice should they look at to what's next?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really interested in continued learning. I mean, I don't think you get the PMP and your job is done. Obviously, that's not the case.
Yeah.
And the field is evolving really rapidly. So I think it's incumbent on us to maintain that learning, understand the trends that are emerging, the best practices. So that's my trajectory in moving forward. I know, obviously, to maintain the certification, you need to do those things anyway. But I look forward to it. I look forward to doing that work.
That's sweet. Yeah. And then, there's different things. Like, as you start to open up, like how you're doing work and how you're managing projects, there's like, oh, we can get into more agile. We can dive into that. Like, we're going to have an ACP class like in a month or so. And then we're having like Scrum Master stuff. We just got to go through the process to get certified. But like, we're going that Lean Six Sigma. There's like all these things, like, as long as we continue to claim ground and challenge ourselves for those out there, I'd just say, do that. Like, find out what that itch you want to scratch as far as professionally to go there, and then find somebody that can teach you, and we'll do our best if we got it. So, so if you want to email me, just email me. I'll help you out. So that's cool. All right. So to close out here, I really, really, really appreciate it. What would be your recommendation for someone that's out there that's struggling, that's kind of lost, that needs to do this for their job, their career, their self-worth, all that? Like, what's the next step that they should take? Like mentally, emotionally, physically, like what should they do from a high level? What do you think?
Yeah, I'd say 4 things. I mean, look, if you can.
Hold on. I'm just going to say 4 giant things. So, okay. Thing 1, not to throw your flow off. Go.
Yeah, I think, if you are able to invest in Scott's program, I would recommend doing it. Save yourself the headache of trying other programs. I think 2, find that community of peers who are also going for the certification. For me, having that support system was really key. Mm-hmm. You don't need to study in a vacuum. I don't think that's necessary. 3, I would say practice humility. So someone who I have a lot of admiration for, Dr. Christopher Emdin of Hip Hop Education, he says that intelligence without humility will never get you a true education. And I say that because you come into this work presumably with established experience as a project manager. So you need to check that ego at the door, come into this work with an open mind, and sometimes learn about other strategies, and ways of doing things better. So humility is key. And then finally, just believe in yourself, trust that you can do it. That's paramount.
Whoo! What a way to end. Like those 4 are killers. Like that is really, really good. And the humility side with the intelligence, like that's a big one to think through. So Ginny, I'm super proud of how you did. I'm sad that you won't be in the calls other than tonight, but if you ever want to come back, you can do it. And then the learning stuff will help you out. But you did so amazingly in a short amount of time on your schedule. We're just lucky to be a part of it and lucky that you were part of the community. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, cool. See you later, guys. Ginny, hang on. We'll talk afters. And we're going to keep cranking these things out. See you guys. Bye.